Alrighty. Mr. Weiss, do you want my bibliography for my speech now or after?
I'll take it later.
Okay. Just making sure it's Chicago style. Wanted to get that right. But in all seriousness, thank you, Mr. Weiss. Your words mean the world to me. Also, thank you to Dr. Rennock and the Cum Laude Society for having me here today. And of course, congratulations to the inductees, their family, friends, and teachers. All right, I haven't been on this stage for a while. In fact, I don't think I've been up here since 16 years ago when I portrayed Sue Whitney in our murder mystery night. And I still need to thank her for letting me borrow her sweater. You know, a lot has happened in 16 years, naturally. For me, it's been a beautiful mix of excitement, devastation, growth, disappointment, inspiration, and plain old living. To be recognized by my alma mater as someone who may have something valuable to say, maybe even motivating, at such a special time and special occasion is truly humbling. What could I say in 20 to 25 minutes to make an impact on aspiring minds? What do I have to share that would be beneficial to the current and future catalysts of change and innovation sitting in this room today? Is there anything I can say that you haven't already heard and isn't just a cliche? But I've got it. I'm going to tell you about my time in the Allegheny County Jail. And for those parents and teachers who didn't read my bio in the program, know that I was there willingly. Deep breaths. I was the director of substance use programs. There are a lot of assumptions about people in jails, about who they are, what they've done, what they're capable of. So often, I was asked by family, friends, and anyone who learned of where I worked, aren't you scared? Why would you want to work with them? My response was always the same, because I absolutely loved working with incarcerated persons and found them to be the most fascinating individuals. They were fascinating not because of what they were accused of, some convicted, but because of their stories. And these weren't stories of street cred or time served, but stories of pain, suffering, perseverance, and desperation. So I had a choice to make. Do I see them as criminals or as humans? Now let me be clear. I never condone illegal activities. It's hard, though, when you hear about all the things that occurred before that illegal act to not have some compassion and empathy for that person. So I had a unique opportunity. I could be the person who saw the potential within each individual and cultivate that potential. I didn't have the term to describe it when I was at the jail, but I now know that my choice and my decision on how to interact with these individuals that have been dismissed and cast aside by so many was rooted in my why. It wasn't until a few years after the jail, while reading Simon Sinek's Start With Why, that I realized what it was that was guiding me at the jail and what has been guiding me throughout these past 16 years. Simon Sinek defines why as your purpose, cause, or belief, why you get out of bed every day, why you do what you do. So what's my why? It's to eliminate barriers and cultivate opportunities for others to achieve their self-defined success, meaning, and fulfillment. My why is my compass. It's what guides me when I'm feeling lost. It energizes me when I'm feeling down or a lack of hope. My why is deeply rooted in my experiences and the people who've been impactful along the way. And in fact, seeing value and potential in an individual who may not be meeting external standards and giving them the opportunity to thrive is something I first encountered here at Shady Side. But before I tell you about that, let me share with you a bit about my life before SSA. I was born with a cleft lip and palate, meaning I had a hole from my mouth to my nose, and there was a separation of my top lip that aligned with that hole. I had so many repair surgeries that I lost count. My physical appearance as a child was impacted because of my deformed nose, lip, and severe underbite. And as much as it shouldn't, we all know that physical appearance does affect confidence. And in addition to the ongoing medical issues, I also lost my dad at the age of 6 in a plane crash, leaving my mother, brother, and I to adapt to life as a family of 3. At a time when I needed them most, my paternal family pulled away, leaving me feeling abandoned, unwanted, and unworthy. I was convinced something was wrong with me, that I was inadequate. Academically, I was all right, solid B student. Typical friendship and classmate drama, at times a little harder than others. At one of those harder times in 8th grade, my mom convinced me to shadow a student for a day here at SSA. She was shocked when I said I loved it and wanted to apply. Years later, she told me she was truly worried when I said that and that I wouldn't be accepted, and feared that her suggestion of shadowing that day would be yet another source of disappointment and self-critique. Obviously, I got in. Before I knew it, my freshman year at SSA had started, and I had switched from the public school where everyone knew my older brother to 5-day boarding at an academically rigorous private school. I was lost. As one of the most impactful people in my life described it, I arrived at SSA woefully ill-prepared. And before you judge that statement, know that it wasn't said with disdain, but rather affection and recognition of my journey and perseverance. There were many times when I doubted my ability to last at SSA. Academically, I was nowhere near my peers. Socially, I struggled to find my fit. And the most glaring example of my sense of disjointedness with the school and peers came in my freshman year history class. I struggled to keep up with my classmates, to match them in their participation, understanding of assignments, and in every way. I judged myself and thought, I can't do this. My teacher saw me, though. He saw value and potential in me when I was comparing myself to external standards, and as a result was once again convinced that I was inadequate. I don't remember how it occurred or how it was discussed, but my teacher arranged for me to be switched into his other history section, where I was still behind academically, but was in a classroom environment more my speed, where I didn't feel as inept. I couldn't tell you what grade I got in that class, but can assure you it wasn't an A. What I received from that experience was far greater than the knowledge of whatever I was supposed to learn from the textbook. I learned that I had value, that I mattered, and that I didn't have to be doing what my peers were capable of to have worth. It would be a lie to say life at SSA was a breeze after that. In fact, I had such a severe concussion my sophomore year that the then head of school wanted me to take a year off. I refused, only agreeing to drop chemistry and take it my senior year. Socially, I found my fit. Academically, let's just say I wasn't sitting up here on Cum Laude Day. But I have a handful of teachers who will challenge anyone who claims I didn't try my best. And if you didn't already figure it out, the teacher who believed in me in 9th grade is the same guy who believed I'd have something valuable to share with you all today. Thank you, Mr. Weiss. And there were other times when someone at SSA did something that may have seemed so small to them, but meant the world to me. There was Dr. Ashworth and his wife, the late Audrey Ashworth, who went above and beyond to support me as I boarded my first plane ever to travel to England as part of the group of students they took on a 2-week adventure. My understandable fear of flying was replaced with an equally strong motivation to study abroad, which I did for 3 semesters in London. And there was Miss Batch, who randomly stopped me on the road in front of the dining hall freshman year to ask my name, and would make a point to say hi to me every single time she saw me, even if it meant yelling across the quad, "Hey, what?" There was my college counselor and junior year advisor, Miss Scott, who called me her fall down 7 times, get up 8 kid, and Mrs. McCarthy, my US history teacher, who pulled me aside one day down by the track spring of my junior year to tell me I was running out of time to ask her to write letters of recommendations for my college applications because she only does so many, and she was almost at her max. I was floored that the teacher of my most demanding class that year wanted to endorse me. The support of those teachers were the foundation for my why. The impact it had on me made me want to do it for others. They also lit within me a confidence I previously lacked. They cultivated a courage to try hard things and freed me from holding myself to the external standards and metrics of success. They had confidence in me and encouraged me until I was able to find the confidence from within. Did you notice in my vision statement I say self-defined success? That's very intentional and meant to challenge the status quo that a certain income, professional title, or even grade for a class determines whether or not you are successful. Here's a spoiler. Life is more than those things, and they do not define you. And before I ruffle any feathers by sounding dismissive of these young scholars on stage, let me clarify. The title of cum laude in and of itself does not equate success. What's admirable and worthy of recognition is that these students set an ambitious goal for themselves and achieved it. To you inductees, take with you not only this honorable recognition, also take with you the strengths you utilize to achieve it. Let this moment today serve as a reminder of your capabilities. Utilize it when you are facing an obstacle in the future and are struggling to maintain motivation. Your success recognized in this moment is fuel for your future achievements. To everyone here today, each and every success is fuel for your future. One of my favorite groups to facilitate at the jail was the introduction of the program, because that was an opportunity to really redefine participants' expectations. The motivations to do the program varied from a genuine desire and readiness to change to just doing what they thought their judge would like. And regardless of the motivation, they had made a choice to be in the program, which meant leaving what's called general population, or Gen Pop, for a program unit with stricter rules, homework assignments, and mandatory group attendance, sometimes up to 4 hours a day. It wasn't always easy being in the program. So when I had the opportunity to do the introduction group, I unknowingly then embrace my why and always emphasize how courageous a choice they made. How what may seem so insignificant to most is actually a huge accomplishment and worthy of recognition. How do you think they responded to that? How do you think they reacted? These individuals who had charges, some convicted, of crimes ranging from possession of drugs to attempted homicide. People who were labeled as violent, bad, and criminal. They reacted with shock, and some even with tears. For many, it was the first time someone had seen value in them for a long time. For others, it was the first time ever. Such a simple and easy act was sometimes the catalyst for a whole new life for someone. Working with people involved in the criminal justice system meant I was working with people who had a lot of others telling them what to do and how to live their life. There was this external standard, and not just the laws, but also the way they lived their life, the choices they made, who they were just by being. They were told they had to meet this certain bar, and if they didn't, they were a failure. By far, the majority of those incarcerated individuals I worked with came from a childhood of trauma, a lack of opportunity, and a desperate focus on meeting the basic needs just to survive. So imagine what it was like for them to hear, on top of other pains of life, that they were a failure, that they were bad, not just breaking the law bad, but at their core, irreparably bad. For 99% of individuals involved in the criminal justice system, especially those with a substance use disorder, they chastise themselves far harsher than any judge, parole officer, or community member ever could. The shame they experience is overwhelming. Imagine being told anything less than this bar isn't good enough, that you then aren't good enough. I bet some of you have felt that way at times, and I know I certainly have. Whether it's academically, athletically, with your artistic abilities, or maybe your fashion choices. It's a pretty awful way to feel, and it drains you of the belief that you can do it. So here were these individuals before me that were frequently being told they were inherently less than. I had an opportunity to do for them as Mr. Weiss, Ms. Batch, and other teachers did for me. I saw the value and potential in them that they couldn't yet see. I cultivated that value until they were able to see it within themselves. This led to more genuine conversations, willingness to be vulnerable and try what's scary, and for them to have the freedom to determine what success would be for them in their life. And you know what? When they were able to define success, they started making it happen, and their self-esteem flourished. They used each self-defined success, no matter how small on the scale of society's standards, to fuel their next pursuit and to tackle their next obstacle. Those self-defined successes also gave them the courage to not let others' expectations and opinions set limitations on their abilities. There are a lot of very real barriers out there: discrimination, inadequate education, lack of resources. Let's not impose internal barriers because of others' opinions on someone's past performance. It's amazing how easily we can internalize the words of others, how we take their assessment of us and hold it in such high regard. If we aren't careful, we will live a life based not on our why, but on all the reasons why we can't. We then are creating these false limitations and accepting defeat without even trying. I'll certainly do what I can to eliminate those very real external barriers, because they need to be eliminated. And while doing so and working on those systemic changes, I'll continue my individual one-to-one efforts of helping people see they have whatever it is they think they need. It's already within them. Sometimes they just need help seeing it, like a man I'll call Mr. Doe. Mr. Doe was a middle-aged black man who had been in and out of the jail for decades. He had an external facade of a grumpy old guy. Working with his counselor, the truly kind and caring individual emerged. When our program started a peer support component, Mr. Doe was identified by the staff as the ideal peer. When his counselor shared this with him and asked if he considered being one of the first peers in the program, essentially serving as a mentor to the 100 men in our program, Mr. Doe was stunned. He couldn't believe we thought so highly of him. He was an excellent peer support in the program, and I'm happy to say I've actually run into him at professional trainings and conferences in the community. He's now a certified recovery specialist, which means he has a full-time job with benefits. He's paid to be a peer. The program I was in and ran doesn't deserve recognition of Mr. Doe's success. It was all him. All the program did was see him, truly see him, and provide him the opportunity to shine. I like to look for these inner qualities, wins, and strengths of a person. I call them golden nuggets. I don't have a clue where that came from. You look for the golden nuggets, the opportunity to affirm something about the person. It doesn't have to be a grand achievement. When you find it, point it out and show them the value they already hold. You can actually see their belief in themselves increase. It's in the eyes. They open a bit more and start to twinkle. And then it's the snowball effect of increased confidence, courage, and achievement. Because we all want to matter. We all want to feel a sense of purpose, that our life means something. In a fast-paced world of constant comparisons to others and emphasis on material indicators of wealth and success, it's easy to lose yourself, to lose your why, that thing that just makes you come to life in a magical way. The weight of others' expectations can be overwhelming to the point that you lack the energy to even try. When we look outside ourselves and start to compare, we're far more likely to set unconscious limits for ourselves than to find motivation to get us through the hard times. And here's the thing. Your definition of success, your goals, and your interests, they're going to change. And that's okay. How you pursue your why will take various forms. When I was a student here, I knew with 100% confidence that I would be a grief counselor for children. And what do I do now? I've moved off the clinical front line and instead work on improving healthcare and workplace systems so that they can better serve their client and patient populations. I also volunteer and currently serve on the board of directors for the Down Syndrome Association of Pittsburgh, as Mr. Weiss said. It's still the same why. It's just different what's and hows. And I've been in your shoes. I've literally sat in those seats. I know the pressures that come with this glorious education and the expectations of what you will do next. Well, I'm here to tell you to be true to yourself, to your why, and to how you define success. Fact of the matter is, no one else will ever live your life. No one else will ever know what it is like to be you. So why should the opinions and standards of others dictate when you're good enough? When you're successful? What you're capable of? I know I'm successful because I live my life in alignment with my why and refuse to allow my past performance or the opinions of others dictate my self-worth and abilities. And you know what's crazy? I've met a lot of external standards for success along the way, which is nice at times, but it still doesn't define me. You get to set the standards to measure your success. And don't let anyone else's opinion or expectation devalue your sense of self and become a barrier to your self-defined success, meaning, and fulfillment. And look out for those golden nuggets in others. You never know whose life you'll change just by highlighting that they have value. And so I'd like to leave you all today with my favorite poem, It Couldn't Be Done, by Edgar Albert Guest. Somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled right in with a trace of a grin on his face. If he worried, he hid it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, "Oh, you'll never do that. At least no one ever has done it." But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and the first thing we knew, he'd begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, without any doubting or quit it, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you, one by one, the dangers that wait to assail you. But just buckle in with a bit of a grin. Just take off your coat and go to it. Just start in to sing as you tackle the thing that cannot be done, and you'll do it. Thank you.